one being representing a man for Uptown TV. You understand?
Sama bataci noi, besemai emet nor, semika des mangustimta, fegadi besemai indionech, endihu bemedir tihun, yala tenjarachnen sitenzare, bedelachnen ikkar belen, igna yebedelnen ikkaren demenil, awada fetna matagban, kakifu adenenen fi, mengist yante antenantena, highly maskam lizleale.
In the name of the African ancestors who began the march of humankind in the womb of Mother Africa, we ask these ancestors to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. In the name of the African ancestors who began the march of humankind in the womb of Mother Africa and marched down the Nile, laying the foundations for human civilization and culture, we ask these Africans to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. In the name of these African ancestors who built their pyramids and their temples to their God concepts, to their principles, and to their moral values, who left us a legacy of architectural and monumental building unparalleled in the history of the world, we ask these ancestors who built the pyramids, who built the temples, to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. We ask these African ancestors who took this African culture and extended it throughout Africa, building the stone cities of Zimbabwe, building the empires of the Sudan, Ghana, Mali, and Songhai, building the Swahili city-states along the east coast of Africa, and in Christian Africa, asking King Lalibela and giving him the courage to build the 12 churches of Lalibela from the ground down, monuments to the world. We ask these Africans who spread this culture to the Dogo and to the Akan and to the Yoruba and to the Bankongo and to the Zulu. We ask these Africans to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. In the name of the Africans who opened up Africa, opened up the Nile Valley to other cultures and other peoples, and they came in and nurtured themselves on the African greatness. First coming in early were the ancient Hebrews, and they synthesized this culture and produced Judaism. Later coming in were the Christians, and they synthesized this culture and produced Christianity. Coming in were also the Greeks, who took the African culture, synthesized it, and produced Greek civilization. And then later, the Prophet Muhammad, and with the Arabs coming into the Nile Valley, they synthesized the culture and produced Islam. We ask these African ancestors, who as part of their legacy laid the foundations for Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and Greek civilization, to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. We ask those African ancestors pulled out of Africa, taken to the hells of North America, South America, the Caribbean, maintaining the spirit of African humanity in their hearts and in their minds, and who left us this enormous legacy of struggle. We ask those Africans who resisted enslavement in the villages of Africa, who resisted enslavement in the shores of Africa, who resisted enslavement in those forts and dungeons, who resisted enslavement in the holds of those ships, who resisted enslavement when they arrived on these shores in the New World. We ask these Africans who ran into the highlands of northeast Brazil and established for 100 years the first free republic in the Americas, the Republic of Palmares, and their last great leader, Zumbi, whose spirit and sacrifice. We ask these Africans who replicated the Brazilian experience and went into the highlands of Jamaica and became the maroon-free communities. We ask these Africans who went into the backwoods of the Guyanas and Suriname and created free republic of the Suramaka and the Ajuka. We ask these Africans who went into the backwoods of Georgia and the swamps of Florida and moved with the Seminole Indians and resisted oppression. We ask these Africans who left us a legacy of struggle and resistance, the likes of which no one in the world has, to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. We ask these Africans who created and laid for us a foundation of struggle and resistance that was passed on generation after generation, that was passed on to Harriet Tubman, who fought her way out of enslavement and became a symbol of freedom for all of us. Similarly, Frederick Douglass and hundreds of thousands of others fought their way out of enslavement. We asked those Africans who went with Boukman Dessalines to create the greatest revolutionary experience in the history of the world, the Haitian Revolution, leaving us a legacy, the likes of which no one else has had. We ask these Africans to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future.
Let us start our class with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Bhagavan Krishna, Mahavatar Babaji, Larry Mahashai, Swami Shri Yukteswarji, our Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji, saints of all religions, we bow to all of you. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, great Gurus, receive our love, receive our desire to love you more, to attune our hearts and minds with your great presence. Om. Peace.
Reading from the Hosea, from the book of Neferti. I shall speak of what is before me. I will never foretell that which will not come. A strange bird will breed in the Delta Marsh and make its nest beside the people of Egypt. For the people will let it approach through lack of action, and afterwards all good things will pass away. Beasts of the desert will drink at the river of Egypt and take their ease on the shores, for they will have no one to fear. The land is in turmoil, and no one knows what will come to pass. For what the future will bring is hidden. And as it is said, when sight and hearing fail the many, those who cannot speak will lead. I show you a land torn up by turmoil. That which should not be has come to pass. People will take up weapons of war, and the land will live in confusion. People will spill blood from bread and laugh out loud at pain and misery, and none will weep over death. Everyone's heart shall care only for him or herself. A person will sit with his or her back turned while one murders another. I show you the son and daughter as enemy, the brother and sister as foe, and the child slaying the mother and father. I show you the undermost turned to be the uppermost. But a king shall come from the south named Ameni, the vindicated one, the son of a woman of Nubia. Will join together the double crown, and the land will be enclosed in his grasp. The people of his reign will rejoice, for Ameni, the son of man, will make his name for all eternity. The evil-minded plotters of treason will hold back their speech through fear of Ameni. The Asiatic invaders will fall before Ameni's fury, and the other invaders will be consumed by the flame. Rebels will yield before Ameni's wrath, and traitors will be brought low by Ameni's might. Then Ma'at, righteousness and order, will return to its place, and Ifset, evil and chaos, will be driven out. From the Hosea, the sacred wisdom of ancient Egypt of Kemet. I acknowledge my ancestors upon whose shoulders I stand. I acknowledge my ancestors, the ones who came before and are still here. I acknowledge my ancestors, the celestial guardians of the great civilizations. I acknowledge Harakti Ra Harakti, Amenhotep II, who first called the great Sphinx by its two names, Harem Akhet and Harakti. Queen Tai, who dedicated a stele to the Sphinx, which she placed in the temple built by her husband near the great statue. Everything which is coming forth before Atum Harakti. I acknowledge Horus of the two horizons, Horus of the rising and setting sun of the east and of the sunrise, reborn in the eastern skies as Herakti. I acknowledge my ancestors upon whose shoulders I stand. I acknowledge Harem Aket Kepri Ra Atum. I acknowledge the high priestess Tutu, Tutu, wife of Ani, Tutu, the Sendstrom bearer, and Hatshepsut, greatest female warrior of all times. I acknowledge my ancestors upon whose shoulders I stand. I acknowledge my ancestors who resisted and took freedom. And in the words of Bookman Duty, Dessalines, Cecile Fatiman, and them, liberty or death. To speak the names of the ancestors is to make them live again. Speak the names of your ancestors. In the words of Asaja for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, I am African, not because I was born in Africa. I am African because Africa was born in me. So, nationality, let me take it back to recruiting soldiers. So, nationality cannot be synonymous with identity. This is where we have to draw the line as we go through, whether this time or any other time. Right? I'll tell you how you get this. So that if you want to go see the movie, Messiah the movie, on tomorrow, if you want to go see the movie tomorrow, you can do so. All right, so we have that lined up for you, and I'll tell you in a little while how you can get that. You see, because Peter over here selecting my own music, I have to be very careful. I have to be very, very, very careful, right? How I go about making sure that I'm looking at what I'm looking at. Yeah, because I am that I am, and if we don't cue up the thing properly, well, let me see. Okay. So may I tell you so? All right, 6:48. You're inside of the Africa Forum. This is Running African, and we're going through until 10 o'clock. In a little while, I'm going to be talking to Sondri Shaw. You might have seen an article in the newspapers. Sondri Shaw has written an article okay, let me take a quick break. A Heroes Day and the Heroes Day celebration. But let me do this quickly and come back. Actually, we'll be speaking with Sondri. And let me tell you about the article that we're referring to. And by the way, before we get to that, let me just say my deepest condolences to the community, the Charlestown community, and especially the Charlestown Maroon community, on the passing, it seems untimely, of our sister Colonel Marcia Douglas, who was very close to the IRFM family and to the Running African family. We've known her for years. Who passed away just a few days ago. As I said before, it seems very untimely. It was shocking. It was very shocking for me. Got the news from our brother, Professor Harcourt Fuller. I just couldn't believe it. The Maroon community in Jamaica, the Charlestown Maroon community, our deepest condolences. Colonel Marcia Douglas was the head of the Charlestown Maroon community. She was 48 years old, and passed away last week. I know she had, and we've heard that she had a long-running heart condition, but she was actually on her way, and Akinsanya Morning Akinsanya told me that she was on her way to participate in the annual Civil Heritage Expo at Civil Heritage Park in St. Anne. And that's when she took ill. She was pronounced dead on arrival at the St. Anne's Bay Hospital. And this is why we say untimely. Sudden, isn't it? She was actually on her way to perform in the Heritage Expo. And if we could all choose how we go out, Marcia, on her way to participate in a heritage activity, is the Marcia Douglas that we know. So to Captain Rodney Rose, to Jamaica, to her mom, Veronica, and her sisters, and other family members, our deepest condolences. I met Marcia many years ago, was introduced to her by Frank Lumsden in 2000 and something, early 2000s. She started out as one of those who worked pretty close to Frank Lumsden, pretty young. And then on the passing of Frank Lumsden, I think that was, what year was that, 2015? Then she became the acting colonel, and then later on the colonel. She's always been a part of everything that we do here at Ivory FM. When you call Marcia, she's always available. And always available for an interview too. I know she was shy and she would tell you that. Kabu, I'm shy. And I'd say, Marcia, yes, I know, but you come on, we're good. And we've had many interviews over the years. Kim, she was known to many as Kim, a very hard worker. In recent years, I'm seeing her mainly because I think one of the things is that we've not had so many events over the years for us to be together, but one of the places that I've ran into her and I've had some serious conversations with her is the Charlestown International Maroon Conference and Festival over there in Charlestown. She presented on June 16 at that event. I wasn't there, but I know she presented. We're gonna miss you, Marcia. We're gonna miss her. She was one of those whose presence was always felt, whenever she was around. And you know, you could always depend on her. I remember one year I said to her, I'm going up to Akampong, and we're going to be broadcasting live from Akampong, but I'm going to need you to be with me for most of the morning as a resource person and as a co-host. And me for fight hard, you know, gosh. She said, I'll do a little interview, ma'am, but we can't be a resource. Anyway, so we got there and she was there. She got there before me. And we overnighted. And she got to the venue before me, even though we had slept over. So she, and we had that whole thing, you know, was brilliant as usual. Marcia was a friend to the program, a beautiful sister, someone who, you know, you could call upon just about any time, and she's always available. Walk good, Marcia. May her journey into the Ipet Isut be peaceful. And once again, to her family and to the Charlestown Maroon community, our deepest condolences.
Running African, reuniting the African family for development.
All right, so once again, quickly, Messiah the movie is going to be on tomorrow at the Institute of Jamaica in Kingston. And we're giving away 15 pairs of tickets. So we're giving away 30 tickets in all. I'm going to tell you when to call and how we're going to do this. All right? So just hold your horses. Hold your horses. Not quite sure. Tell me why the phone's ringing, please. All right, 6:56. 4 minutes. Going up to 7 o'clock. Tell your son we have to come back and say yes, we told you so. So when the current opposition leader was named as when they had the voting and all of that as opposition leader of the opposition, that's Mark Golding. One of the things I said to you in this space was that, well, now they're going to release a FinSAC report. I knew why I said that, and I remember laughing and saying that, well, you know, they are going to release a report, but they're going to do that later on, closer to the elections. And then again, in August, at the event for Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey here, co-hosting with Muta Baruka, I said it again. I said it to Muta and I said it to the wider audience, that one of the things we're going to see in short order was the PNP-led government saying that they're going to release the FinSAC report. I know people have been asking me how you figure this, but I'm not the only one who figured this, I'm sure. I said it in August, how I figure it, that it was going to be released, or at least the threats of it being released. And I suppose it's going to be released. This is my reading of it. It has been my reading from Mark Golding was made leader of the opposition. And then later on, through all the conversations when we had the discussions on SSL, when we had the discussions on the increase in salary for the politicians and so on, I said the FinSAC report. I'm always pointing back to the FinSAC report. And here we are. Yes, the reason for that, is very simple, and I've said it many times, is who are the advisors to the Minister of Finance on the FinSAC report. And when Mark Golding himself used that, I think, not sure if it's in his bio or he said it on stage, but he publicly said it. I came to this space and I said again, he shouldn't have. He shouldn't have. Because you're literally just beating them up because you know that what that is, a FinSAC report, right? So anyway, let us see it. We all want to see it. It's about time. I've done many programs in this space. I spent, 6 months, Valerie? With Valerie and Dixon and all the others, just going through that whole FinSAC period. And then in recent times again, when Valerie Dixon published her book, Too Black to Succeed, we went back again to the FinSAC report. It's always in this space because one of the most egregious things after the wickedness that took place on this island, how black people lost their businesses, how the middle class was just wiped out in this whole FinSAC debacle. That whole period, there has been no reparations, there's been no there's hardly been any responsibility taken. So it's something that has come up from time and time. We've done multiple programs on it in this space. Now, there were advisors to the Prime Minister. And this is why we're hearing that the FinSAC report is about to be released. I am standing by to speak with Sondri Shaw. So let me know if you have her. And by the way, it's not about, no, it's not about FinSAC. Sondri, as I said before, there's an article that's published in the newspapers. What date is it again, Sondri? Let me check. October 15, entitled, Is National Heroes Day Still Relevant? And written by Sondri Shaw. We're standing by to speak to her online. And Sondri is an assistant lecturer in the Department of History and Archaeology at the University of the West Indies, Mona. Want to get to Sondri? Can we have that, please?
Good morning. Yes, how you do?
I'm very well. You like how Peter Tosh just select him own song there?
Listener, you have to be careful in a man, because he must just select what he wants.
That's what's going on here, you know. So as you were about to come in, I'm playing something totally different, and here is Peter playing Recruiting Soldiers. So I'm sure that has something to do with you.
Must be a rebel with a cause, eh?
You know, are you there, Sondri? I think I missed everything.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes,
Went out a while ago.
Yes, that happened on this end too. All right, so brilliant article in the Jamaica Observer. The headline is Heroes Day still relevant? You start out by saying that there are indications that the significance of National Heroes Day in particular, you're saying, not just Heritage Week, but National Heroes Day in particular, that the significance is increasingly lost on the general population. I know you've been a teacher in the system. You've also been a journalist working here at IRFM and doing a brilliant job. You're a researcher, and so that you have a unique view and perspective on what's happening. So elaborate on that first, please, as to why you have said that you're seeing where the significance of not just Heritage Week, but Heroes Day in particular is lost on the public.
Well, Heritage Week, I don't think most people even remember that Heritage Week exists, unless there is some reminder in the media, or maybe if you're a student or a teacher, then of course, by virtue of what the Ministry of Education sends out for activities to take place in the school, you might not remember. But in terms of the general population, Heroes Day usually holds significance, maybe because it's a public holiday overall. And so even now I realize that as opposed to 2-3 generations ago, when we actually acknowledged that this was about people who made blood sacrifice for our freedom, it has just become a day to either sleep or party. And sleep, I understand, because sometimes people are so overworked and pressured and they feel so stressed, they just need a minute to recharge. But the partying has just gone up. It's like there's a deliberate attempt to keep the frequency low, and so the parties are just promoted non-stop for the weekend. Even if it doesn't matter which Monday the day is celebrated on, the parties are always promoted from the Friday to the Monday. And then I wonder, when I hear the conversation about loss of productivity, I wonder if there's any consideration given to the fact that if we want to be concerned so much about productivity, then cut down the parties on the actual day then, and keep low energy events. But,
and then even, right, and one of the things I want to do is to put your article within that perspective, and you've raised a point, so let us build upon that a bit. The perspective of the call now, once again, by the PSOJ, for Emancipation Independence Day to be amalgamated into a weekend situation, and one of the things they have cited is productivity, that there's a productivity loss because of the break in the two holidays. But looking at this whole period, the Heritage Week, the Heroes Day, you are seeing a basis on which we can literally make a comparison, or to say there's an argument here against a point that you're making. That's a PSOJ. This is what I hear you saying.
Let me just make it clear. Let me make it clear that I am not in support in any way or form of the amalgamation of the holidays. If we're going to do that and lose significance of Emancipation Day, then Heroes Day becomes irrelevant. Because we have Emancipation because of at least four of the 7 national heroes. Yes, 4. We have Emancipation Day because of them. And so if we lose Emancipation Day, then how then does it become relevant? Because then we're left with Marcus Garvey, Norman Manley and Bustamante, and then it becomes clearly black and white or black and off-white, depending on how you look at it, because independence becomes the only relevant day at that point. And so we run the risk of going back to 1962 when Emancipation Day was shelved and Independence Day became the only holiday that was celebrated. I don't see any argument that should really support the amalgamation. Productivity being lost is not an issue of the holidays. We need to correct this issue of sitting in government offices or sitting in banks for the whole day.
And that's the point.
Infrastructure.
I think that's a very good point that allows that. Because here's the thing, and the point you raise is brilliant, because with the convergence of the digital technologies, with the work from home and the work from overseas, a global workspace then, the idea that there's no productivity unless you go in really doesn't even hold water, does it?
It doesn't. In fact, you'll find that you're overproductive when you work from home. I have a few colleagues who told me that when they work from home, they did so much work the last week they didn't realize they spent more than 8 hours in their home office.
This is exactly true. If you're not careful, even your own family don't really, you have to keep saying, well, listen, I'm working, you know.
Yes, because you have to make a conscious effort.
Yes.
You have to make a conscious effort to get out of the office when you work from home. I have done it before, so I understand. You spend so many hours on the job. You don't realize that you're losing sleep, that you're neglecting family, you're neglecting self. That
is true. One of the things I like to move on a bit with the article published in the Observer that you wrote, is that you also went into a little bit of the historical background to why you say the concept of national hero of a national hero became relevant as a need arose for the Jamaican society to redefine itself after 1962. And I'm quoting exactly from you there now. So pick that up for me, please, because you talk about before this.
All right. So thanks to one of our Elsa Govile lectures, we normally want the University of the West Indies does a lecture, they usually put out a printed copy in a book form you can purchase. And so I found a copy of one of those lectures done by Howard Johnson. And that's when I realized that before 1962, there were 6 great Jamaicans who were sort of held up as symbols of what was thought to be good. But after 1962, there was a need for the people to see heroes or great Jamaicans who looked like them. And so, with a country redefining its past with a population of mostly people of African descent, one can understand why the people needed to have people who looked like them. And so, I suppose that is why there was this call for black national heroes. And so, but it's interesting that it took only about 7 years for us to install our first national hero, was Marcus Garvey. I thought that's very fitting. And then years after that, we got the others like Paul Bogle and Nanny and George L.M. Gordon and so on. But these people represented a struggle against the system. And so whereas the set of 6 great Jamaicans before 62 represented the colonial system, these who came after 1962 represented the fight for freedom. And so they were very, very much appropriate as the Bogle, the Sharp, the Nanny, the Garveys, very much appropriate heroes. And I think it gave the people a sense of identity. You know, I'm looking at these people are held up as beacons of what is now worth it. And I look like them, and their sacrifices for me are recognized. I think that was a very important step for a country.
And you point out very fittingly, rightly so, that the Coral Gardens massacre of 1963, although you say the Coral Gardens incident, and then the questions around Bustamante, you say that within that context of the Coral Gardens 1963 massacre, that the case of Bustamante seems to stand out even more. What do you mean by this?
So many Jamaicans from where I stand, I've heard my elders speak about it. And growing up, I realized that people's views were torn as it relates to Bustamante. On the one hand, you have a set of Jamaicans who have very little to no respect for him because of his supposed role in Coral Gardens the statement, if, what's the name of the station? If that station in Montego Bay can't hold them, then Bozil was it, will hold them. Right. And so when I hear that from my elders, especially the members of the Rastafari community, I understand the pain that runs through the DNA for years and years where there is no respect where he's concerned. And a number of my colleagues in academia also feel a similar way. And although they might not be open for obvious reasons about their stance on Bustamante, they will tell their students who they see with rebellious spirits like myself, why they don't see Bustamante as somebody to be revered. I mean, this is a community that we now see putting Jamaica on the map. Everywhere you go in the world, there are some other things they'll ask and then mention Rastafari. And Rastafari stands out as synonymous with Jamaica. So, you know, with that said, and the fact that Rastafari never really got an apology until just recently, and I think I've heard some elders say to me that they're still fighting for reparations because some payments to them haven't been done and some infrastructural development for their communities are not in place and so on. One can understand the pain in the DNA, and so the lack of reverence or honor for Bustamante, if you will. But on the other hand, there's another step that speaks about Bustamante, and he's wrote in 1938 when he whooped him shirt and you know, shoot me and leave my people alone.
Did he really do that? Do we know that he really did that, or that was just some kind of... It was somebody else and they say him?
Well, you see, first of all, I was not there, unfortunately.
Listen, you're a historian and a researcher. Stop it, but you weren't there.
I heard about... I have heard so many stories about who was beside him and the fact that he had the right color, which is why his name was front and center.
Because how do we have this conversation without talking about St. William Grant, you know?
Without St. William Grant, exactly. Yes. So, and this only comes up, for example, when people mention, I've heard questions about St. William Grant Park. And once we hear St. William, a lot of people are thinking British. So I had a few persons, I remember there was this outside broadcast one time, people were asking why name St. William. It's a white Englishman. No, it's a black individual. Right. And then when people start to hear the stories, so why don't we hear about him? And is it that Bustamante had the right color, why he was pushed to the front?
Yeah. So why? So
it might be him.
So do you think that ultimately this conversation is we're going to have to have this conversation regarding St. William Grant vis-a-vis Bustamante, and to put St. William Grant in his right place, and to revisit this whole idea of who Bustamante was, what he did, etc.?
With the role, with the place that Bustamante has now, I would be surprised if anybody goes back to revisit it. I remember Professor Shepherd did a feature, and St. William Grant was discussed on Talking History. And so many people were surprised that he was such a significant figure in the labor movement. But the difficulty is finding information on him. So maybe it's people like you who have to do another In Search of series. You know, sometimes if we don't do it from the grassroots level, you know.
That's true. Let's go in search of St. William Grant.
Yes, the history from above will not pick it up if the history from below doesn't fight for it to be picked up. And that's why revisionist historians are so important.
Yes, I will take that up. In Search of St. William Grant. Prof, you there? Prof Shepherd? We'll soon talk. All right, let me take a break. Sandra Shaw, she is an assistant lecturer in the Department of History and Archaeology at the University of the West Indies. Sandra is also a journalist, having worked here at IRFM for many, many moons, right, Sandra?
Correct.
In the programming department. And, of course, a teacher starting out teaching at high schools after leaving the University of the West Indies many years ago also. Right?
I'm still here, correct.
Yeah. And all of that, and you're still just 30 little, right?
Yes.
Just about that. If you reach 30 yet, I mean, I need to check this.
If we reach it yet.
Yes, if you reach 30, for true. So, but great work, though, for a young person to have achieved so much over time. I'm always just encouraged by you and the work that you do and how serious you are about history, about research, about ourselves, about our culture. To go back to the article, which written by Sandra Shaw in the observer of October 15 is National Heroes Day still relevant? Of course, you end the article by asking the question again and answering it yourself, saying yes. But one of the things you have done through the article is to take us right up to that point of view, saying yes, it is still relevant. And this is what I love about it, because the historical background, contemporary historical background, and just put into perspective for us how we came to these national heroes and who they are to some extent. One of the things you point out also is that quite a few of these national heroes were made and named national heroes while they had criminal records.
Right. So we know that Bogo would have had a record, and so too Marcus Garvey. And it's interesting that we held up at the time these people as national heroes. But I was thinking the other day that maybe I should have waited a bit and written the article later, because I'm wondering, in today's society, would we have celebrated these people as nation builders? Because even now, if you want to protest, you have to apply to the people you want to protest against them.
And this is a conundrum, as I was speaking about this last week, because obviously you know the fight. You were part of that struggle to lift to expunge the criminal records of these national heroes, these liberators. When this was done by the current Jamaica Labour Party administration, we were there in Parliament, Professor Vereen Shepherd, myself, and so many others who were part of that process of activism. And one of the things that stood out to me was the extent to which each member of Parliament, with the ministers and so on, and the Prime Minister, who spoke, Babsy Granger, Minister of Culture, Andrew Holness, the Prime Minister at the time. And the point they raised, they talked about these heroes as liberators, as freedom fighters. And the only thing going through my mind sitting there was, but if they did the same thing right now, they probably would still be beheaded, hung, shot, killed.
Yes, they would not be considered heroes at all. And it always comes to my mind. How come on the one hand you celebrate them for being freedom fighters, but on the other hand, you're trying to keep the people so quiet and docile.
And passive.
They wouldn't want another Chief Taichi to rise up now. They wouldn't want another Sam Sharp. And I found there was one particular, I don't quite remember which holiday, but I do remember one particular holiday that a speech was given by our current Prime Minister, who mentioned that Bleby treated Sam Sharp so well, and Sam Sharp was treated well.
Yeah, he quoted Bleby, and it's interesting that you raised that, because I don't know if you recall how, my blood literally boiled, because that
my one was non-existent, and that's why I got angry a while ago. I was even wondering if I was quoting it properly. So I'm not quoting him, for the record.
Yes.
I'm just making reference to when he mentioned that Sam Sharp was treated better than or treated well. Listen,
he went beyond that, to say that Sam Sharp didn't experience slavery in the way that chattel slaves, enslaved Africans experienced slavery, because Sam Sharp had an enslaver who was benevolent. Who was treated better than most, because, he was taught to read and so on. And this came from the Prime Minister just a few years ago. What does that tell us, though, for somebody yourself who's a historian and a teacher? What does that say about how, as a nation, we're failing ourselves in this regard?
No, but you see, first of all, I thought that the people who hold on to this would be the ones who don't know their history at all. And again, if you don't know your history, you won't know where you're coming from. So you can't know where you're going. And you're bound to make the same mistakes over and over again. And now you're trying to tell the people, listen, it doesn't matter if your situation is not as good as, or if you're under oppression, if you're in a situation comparatively better than the other person. Is it that I'm not supposed to fight for better because my situation is comparatively better? And also, as someone who has read, I've been privy to see the primary sources of how some of these enslavers treated their enslaved people. How do you know that he was treated the way he was? How do you know that what you were given to read was not an excerpt of something that had even more information about how badly he was treated? And if I had the opportunity at the time, I would have asked my PM if he read that information himself, or he was just given the speech and he read it.
The question,
because you're telling me that my people are supposed to remain docile, don't be a rebel, try and follow along the Christian quiet pathway that doesn't fight, but because your pie is up in the sky. Listen, I get upset again. Go ahead.
No, you can get upset, but Sondri, as you know, you can get upset in this space. As a former producer on this program, go right ahead and be upset. Now, listen. One of the things you wrote about in the article, you talk about, and you raise a question, has this skewed our sense of national identity? Speaking to let me just read the paragraph. You say, for those like Bogle, Garvey and Sharp, who were all deemed criminals at the time, there have been calls for their records to be expunged instead of pardons being granted. Their records were expunged, though, Sondri.
Yes, they were.
Yes, and then you go on to say, so has this affected how we teach about, how we speak of, or write about our national heroes? And then you say, has this skewed our sense of national identity? Has it?
I believe it has. I believe the way we have positioned our national heroes. Let's remove Marcus Garvey, Manley, and Bustamante from the equation. And the way the rest of them are spoken about, the way I was taught about them, these are not people I wanted to be associated with. These are not people I wanted to be proud of, because I personally do not care. I believe in being a rebel. But in general, I'm saying I would not want to be branded a descendant of criminals, or be associated with people who are known for criminal activities. But we don't teach our children, that it was considered criminal because at the time it went against the grain of colonialism, against the grain of oppression. And so looking at them, we don't learn to be proud of them, and we are seeing a mirror. How can we be proud of and respect ourselves and respect each other if we're not taught to respect the faces of those who set it so we can get it? And then when we come on to Marcus Garvey, every year we get quotes around this time of year, and we get the quotes around emancipation and independence, and everybody quotes the people without a knowledge of their past history, etc., etc. But at the same time, we don't even want to teach his philosophy in school. We don't tell them anything. So what are we supposed to be proud of? We push independence so much. Emancipation Day is just marked by speeches. If you're in government, then you go to work on Emancipation Day, and you have a ceremony, their ritual, and we get the public rituals via the speeches on free-to-air media. What else do we get? But then we get the spectacle of a show on Independence Day, and we were reminded out of many one. Right. But then we are not taught that when it comes down to our national heroes, out of many, only one set represents really what is good and what is virtuous and what is valuable. So we have to revisit that and how we teach about them and reintroduce them to this generation.
Yes, and as we wrap up, Sondri, once again, brilliant article. You point to the calls to your colleague who talked about that's Dr. Carl Watts, who's talked about the need for a new generation of national heroes that this society can relate to, and you also talk about the calls for other national heroes to be named. Just elaborate on those two points for me, please.
All right, so I've heard the conversation time and time again about probably having Miss Lou and Bob Marley, possibly Usain Bolt as national heroes. Now, the National Honors and Awards Act of 1969 is what, based on my research, was the act that would be used to confer the order of national hero. And so it is very vague in how it outlines that national heroes are selected, because you must have rendered service to Jamaica of the most distinguished nature. And that leads you to it's very open-ended. There is no specificity as to what would they have to have done for them to be rendered a national hero. And so from our standpoint, we were discussing nation building and saying we need to redefine nation building. Controversial it may be around Miss Lou. I'm not sure where I stand on Miss Lou being a national hero. for this is my main reason. If Miss Lou becomes a national hero, then I should hear that Patois is officially our first language.
It comes with so much more. It's almost it's a package, literally. It's how do you separate that from Miss Lou herself in
we can't
that? Yeah.
We can't keep putting what she did and putting displays of Patois on stage for comical relief. And then we celebrate Miss Lou and every poem has to end with ay, 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 or Jack Mandora, I'm not choosing. No, it has to be more than that. We have to be able to get in a space where we can teach our students using Patois and then using that to segue into English. Because I have done it. I had the privilege one time of having a class with some grade 10 students, and they could not speak English to save them lives, save maybe about 5 of them. And when I went through saying, all right, tell me like how you would tell your friend, and them tell me it.
And the bottom line is that it's a recognition of the Jamaican language as our first, as our first national language. This is a Jamaican language, which is different from the English language, which by its very name tells us that it belongs to another race of people, another group of people, another culture. So that recognizing Miss Lou is to recognize our Jamaican language also. You also mentioned Bert Samuels and the fact that this, he had raised a point of a referendum on these, on whether or not we need national heroes. But just quickly, naming a living national hero, because we know Usain Bolt has come up. I am totally against naming a living national hero because nobody can live up to that. I know Barbados has done it. I did not support that. But I really do think that we don't need to name a living national hero. We can't just go on with the dead people and say it. Make better sense because nobody can live up to being a hero. And the disappointment would be massive if things begin to come out in the way that we're seeing stuff coming out now surrounding Rihanna, for example, and whether or not they're true is something that I suppose for many more moons as the P. Diddy cases go on, how all of that went down. And I'm not casting any aspiration. I'm just saying that a conversation like that around your national hero is not one that you want to have while the national hero is alive. So just to wrap this up, you did come to the conclusion that, yes, it is relevant. So where do we go from here with this now?
Let me just say, with Bolt as a national hero, I don't think that will happen in our lifetime anymore, given the situation with his money and
know them for naming national hero, consider them thieving money.
Well, I don't think this is the thing, I keep saying to people, national heroes represent rebellion against the system. And if you go against the system in this generation, in this lifetime, in this Jamaica, you will not be recognized. And so I don't think we will have that, because we're teaching our people that we have nothing to rebel against.
And it's a very good point you make, by the way, that if you go against the status quo, the same status quo that you're fighting against will not recognize you.
It will not recognize you. Yeah. So it goes now to your question, where do we go from here?
Yes.
Elders have a lot to do now in the community. And remember, they say when an elder dies, a library also dies. So we need to form that relationship. Elders, please step up, have the conversations with the young people. Because I've met so many, well, I'm not an elder, but kind of a whole soul based on who I grew up around.
Yes.
And many times I'm turned off from having conversations with the young ones. But there's so many times when all they want is a listening ear, because they're interested in hearing.
Of course.
And when you talk to them and you bring the elders to talk to them, listen, man, they ask so many questions. You wonder how they're able to ask, and we keep saying social media is taking charge of their mind. We have the opportunity. Step in and talk to them. Teachers, I know we're overworked, but we have a responsibility too. The syllabus says teach A, but I know there is a setting for us. We can set up situations where the syllabus says A, but we can teach them about themselves.
Yes.
If it's even 30 minutes, 15 minutes, show them that the syllabus says, hey, you have to write this for an exam, but I want you to know this about the people that you came from. We never just pop up in Jamaica as enslaved people. We had a history, we had a beginning before this. Reintroduce our national heroes. Reintroduce them. Stop forcing everything together in social studies. Ministry of Education needs to step up. We're forcing everything in social studies. We're putting social studies as a substitute for history.
Yes.
And then we're forcing our primary school students to do some activities that when they get to high school and university, their brain is so burnt out. They can't think. And so they're really controllable and docile. So we just need to reintroduce them. It is still relevant. Spend as much time on identity and knowledge as we spend on promoting the parties.
Yes, I'm going to invite you back, Sondre, to continue this conversation. We really do have to get you back in-house to just have this wider conversation and about the work that you yourself, you're doing. Thank you so much, my little sister. Thank you so
Anytime,
much. By the way, do you
you.
want to go see Mosiah, the movie? Or you have tickets already?
I don't, but I don't know if I will have much time.
All right, go ahead. Because I was going to give you 2 tickets, and you could easily give them to somebody, but say go ahead. Right? Should I put your name on the list for 2 tickets?
All right, write my name on the list. Thank you.
All right.
And hold on, while you're at it, if I may, just really quickly, I just want to invite the public this Thursday.
Say that again?
And this Thursday, I want to invite the public to come out to the Walter Rodney lecture. Last week we had Peter Tosh, and let me tell you, man, the persons who turned up, they seemed to enjoy it so much.
Okay.
Yes, they had right at the Undercroft there at the University of the West Indies. It was wonderful.
Wow, I didn't know about that.
And History Man was there. It was a good set, man.
Okay, brilliant.
So as we celebrate Peter Tosh and the rebel in Peter Tosh that so many of us don't want to talk about. We like to hear, the mellow side and romanticize reggae, and we forget to tell our people that reggae is also about rebellion. Yeah. I want people to come out and hear this lecture in honor of another rebel that was at one time banned from coming into Jamaica because he dared to stand against status quo. And that's Walter Rodney. So we have the 26th annual Walter Rodney lecture that's being put on with the at the University of the West Indies. So the Institute of Caribbean Studies is hosting that lecture, and the guest speaker is Professor Trevor Monroe.
Okay.
And it's this Thursday, October 24 at 6 p.m. And it's being held under the theme, Beyond October 1968, Does Activism Matter? And you can find that lecture taking place at the Neville Hall Lecture Theatre. So when you come in, either ask for Neville Hall Lecture Theatre or N1 in the Faculty of Humanities and Education, and people will direct you. And if you can't make it in person, it will be live streamed on YouTube at ICSU Wimona on YouTube.
Okay, say that again, at where?
ICS Wimona. That's the YouTube channel, and you can tune in if you can't make it in person.
Right.
But we encourage you to come out in person so you can ask your questions and learn about a rebel.
All right,
learn
brilliant.
Thank you.
I'll certainly check it out online. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sondre. We talk soon.
And thank you so much too.
All right. Sondre Shaw, Assistant Lecturer in the Department of History and Archaeology at the University of the West Indies, journalist also, as I said before, one of the former producers, I really miss her, of this program, the Africa Forum. Campbell, busy, you know him as, and he says busy. And we want to talk a little bit about the Bel Zaidi 39th Memorial Football Festival that's happening tomorrow at at Winchester Park. It's Heroes Day. And the speech that he gave at the media launch, for this event, where he talked about the honorees and a little bit about just tapping into young people and the causes of certain behaviors that they display. He mentioned that he's been talking about this for a while, that adults should lead by example in their communities, and that this is an appeal that he's made to persons to mentor also young adults, especially young men. So we're standing by to speak with Mr. Clive Campbell. Also want to go to Ethiopia later on in the program, where our sister Yvonne Brown is at a law conference in Ethiopia, Black Lawyers Conference in Ethiopia, just coming in from Lalibela and heading back to Addis Ababa. But we're standing by to speak with Clive Campbell. Let me know what the situation is. If we have Clive online, please. Well, if you got up this morning and looked at your X, Twitter feed, you would see that, or would have seen that Xi Jinping, Chinese president, is trending. So I saw that and I said, why is Xi Jinping trending this morning? Well, apart from the fact that we know he has made the announcement he's going to the BRICS conference in Russia. So we know that, but there was a whole other thing that he was trending in almost every country. And so I checked, and apparently Xi Jinping has told the China's army, to prepare for war. We know that when he speaks, he understands the weight that his words carries. And so he knows that if he said to China's army, prepare for war, that this would be reported on widely and wildly. And this is exactly what's happening. So we're looking at that. Xi Jinping has said to China's army, prepare for war. So some are tying that to Taiwan, but others are saying on the heels of the announcement of going to Russia and noting the relationship between China, Russia, and so on and so forth. And the talks about World War III, etc., etc. I don't know. So you tell me what your research is showing you. I know that there is a direct connection between that statement, it would appear to me, and Taiwan. But to have made it in the way he made it, it must have some broader significance. All right, we're standing by. I'm not sure what's happening for Mr. Clive Campbell, who was on the phone with us just a while ago. So I'm not quite sure what the situation is, but let me go check. All right, so we're back with you inside of the Africa Forum. Clive, if you can call us, please do, because we're not getting you. I'm not sure what it is. And Peter Tosh is round here selecting his own songs. And this is not a lie, you know. He's just selecting his own music. And we're not quite sure if he's selecting the ones that were clear. You know, Peter, and we don't want him select anything that, although I don't think he must set me up them ways, but I still have to monitor the thing carefully before Peter decides to play where they're supposed to play. All right.
Hello.
Busy morning.
Morning, sister.
Greetings. How you doing?
Greetings and love and peace.
Right. Are you calling us or did we call you?
You call us. She
Okay.
called me before, and then she said she'll call me back. I'll share the land.
Okay,
thing.
brilliant.
But I'm okay. I'm good. I'm good.
Right. Brilliant. So 6 minutes now going up to 8 o'clock. And so I'm seeing here that you spoke at the launch, of course, of the upcoming event, which is the Belzadi 39th Memorial Football Festival.
Right.
Before we talk about your speech at the event, tell us a little bit about that festival. What it entails, and this, of course, 39. So this is going on for a while.
Well, it's about remembering my two brethren who died tragically in Mexico, the World Cup.
I remember that. What year was that again?
86.
Yeah, that was. For those who recall, that was a very, very traumatic and sad time for us here in Jamaica.
I tell you, sister, I was in London when I left Miami because we had arranged that I'll be coming. But those days you don't have to book your ticket. You can go and just go into the stadiums, you know?
Yes.
See if you're
Yes.
I reached as far as Miami, and a friend of mine told me it's on television in Jamaica. And I had to change and come home. Turn back.
Yeah.
And it's so sad when it's Sunday morning when I got that news. I couldn't believe it. I said to myself, what should I do?
Yeah.
We played a little game just in memory. Then, you know, Masters were Masters because we were planning about the Masters League coming up, you know? Because the Masters League started in next year, 87. And I called my friend Viv Richards because when I leave England, I was with him. And when I called him, I tell him, say, you know, Bridget died in the thing. And I said, who? And I said, the one who I bring to you, man, in Jamaica, 86. Viv was the captain of the West Indies team that gave England 5-love. And Jackie wanted to meet him so bad. But Viv and I is very, very close, like brothers. So I took him to Jackie, leave him for an hour. It was during the lunchtime, I'll never forget. And when I went back for him, he said, boy, this man know about cricket and football, man. I said, yeah, man. He claims him as Gary Sobers in a cricket, you know?
Yes.
But there was these two persons who passed away, the former coach's sister and players represent Jamaica. People tend to don't remember these things.
Yeah.
National coaches, I mean, you know. Jackie was a senior coach and Dennis Dade was a junior coach. Dennis Dade took a team, took Cuba, and, you know, it was surprising. I said what we did.
Yeah, there was a feeling that, I mean, of just despair. You're talking about two persons who actively involved, but also delivering well-known, I mean, celebrities on the island, actually, and then for that to happen. But good of you that over the years you have been doing this memorial tribute and honoring others at the same time. Who will be honored this year?
This year, Theodore Whitmore. That is Tapa Whitmore. Bonner Pepe Goodison, Ian Pepe Goodison, Walter Blacker Boyd, and these two persons they keep calling say they want to play. I say, yes, you're honorees, you're entitled to play. Linval, Rudy Dixon.
Yes.
They all the four of them represented Jamaica in the 98 World Cup, as you should know. Yeah, and then you have the gentleman named Kisang Kipichin. He's a former St. George's Old Boy, Manning Cup player and a George's Old Boy player. He's a teacher at Campion. Then you have Chris James, he's the president of the Barbican Football Club. And you have Ricardo Morgan, he's a former FIFA referee that went to the World Cup with Prendergast and Principal Garwood, who's at Dintil.
Yes.
Those three went. And you have a gentleman named Manley Burrows, who was the driver of the Reggae Boy bus. And up to recently, I went and saw him about a month ago when the Premier League was starting. And I realized he had a slight, stroke or something like that. It's sad. He was upstairs and I was downstairs. And I couldn't go up there. I just stayed down. Yeah. But we had referred to me months ago that he would be honored, So those are the hate people. Why hate? We always do like 3 or 4. I say, look, time is going so fast. I can have do as much as I can.
Yes, I understand.
But the good thing is, all I ask and I thank the Creator for giving me the strength to go on. And I have some youngsters, like Jamaics, you have Peter Metro, you have Stephen, even Avery. I say, look, even if I'm not around, the memory of these two persons must be remembered in football.
Yes.
That's why we've been named the 39th Memorial. And,
yes, and if we could get, if there's another way, because obviously too much depend on the individual to carry things like this. This is far-reaching now, and we're looking at the speech you made at the media launch of the event, also talking about how this is all encompassing, including mentoring, including speaking to adults and their roles, the role they play as role models for young men in particular. And the point I want to make about this is that there needs to be a way to get events like these on the calendar, supported by the private sector and government, to ensure that whatever happens, they are ongoing.
Sister Kabu, I wake up every Sunday morning to listen to you.
Yes.
And I tell you, last night I was up by that field, Barbican Field. I have a place up there, and I went there a couple of weeks ago. Me on a Sunday eve night, Mikey, Jamaica, and Metro invited me there. It's an AstroTurf thing, like we have the football factory. And after leaving there, seeing how the place was well built up with a lounge, you could sit and have a drink and all that. And the Monday morning, I got a call, so they burnt it down. I tell you, tears came to my eyes.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it.
Oh, you mean they burnt it down? They who?
Sister, your sports department will know, because I just can't believe it up to now. And as I'm speaking to you, I just want you to do one favor for me. Just ask your operator whether it is find a song by Johnny Nash, Love and Peace.
Johnny Nash.
The reason why I I used to be working over next door, Tough Gang, to United Printers. Johnny Nash did a lot of recording down there. Big Bob, even when Bob was there. I can tell you. Guava Jelly and all those, 1964. I remember going over there, meeting Johnny Nash. And he did this song after, 69 I think he did this, after Love and Peace. All I'm asking you for today, play that song before you leave, if you can.
Well, I'm looking for it now, and you know the song, and you know say it word for airplay and thing.
Yes, it is. And it's like, every day I walk with, my phone ring One Love, Bob Marley. That is it.
I'm hearing it for the first time. Let me just be upfront with that. Yeah.
Sister Kabu, all over the world. You see what has been happening,
Yes.
So, Bob Marley, I have a Belgian memorial, he was there. All I ask you, come out and support if you can. Children under 12 is free. Right? Okay. And we'll go as far as to let you know that Bob Marley Foundation, we have put up some gate prizes, like people who attend. Winners can go to attend the Bob Marley Museum. And also we have some shirts, T-shirts to give away for that event. We have other people who have offered to, just gate prize for people. And one thing we do, and I don't know if it will be successful, we have a thing that will buy a component set like to try and raffle it, because we're trying to raise computers and printers at basic school. That's what we always do.
Yes, I know.
That's the main thing,
So there's going to be a raffle also. And just before you go, Busy, just looking at the speech you made at the media launch of the event, a short speech, but so much said, and I can feel literally that burden that you're carrying for the youth of Jamaica, and especially for the young men of Jamaica, but also understanding the role that adults have to play. One of the things you're calling for is mentorship. Expand on that for us, please.
Look, sister, whenever you go I can go anywhere. I walk with love. I don't look behind me. Sister, and I reflect on years ago, I was a league director of the football. A game played between Tivoli and Arnett Garden in camp. And so I was at the game, but the game mashed up. And when I got the call to the game stop and whatever happened, we had a next game coming up the following week. And I said to them, well, look, I have committee meet. People were saying, boy, the next time the game played, I have to play without spectators. And I said, no. Football is a spectator sport. Look what happened between El Salvador and Honduras. Border war and football bring them together. And that was okay. So why can't it be here in Jamaica? And it so happened that I brought up this thing about bring back the love.
Yes.
And I went down there on my bike. I was riding a big bike down to Tivoli with the coaches. And I said to him, my brethren, the game going to play in the stadium. Spectators have to be there. I want to walk out with like a youngster in front of the team. I'm going up to Arnett Garden now, do the same. I went up there. I said, look, the game playing. And I want to walk out, two youngsters, hero team. And I want y'all go into the middle, embrace each other, shake on and hug up each other, send a signal into the stand that is football they come to play. Yeah. And sister, I felt proud the game played.
Yeah.
And after that, just the last thing, after that, I make sure Mr. Siaga and Mr. Omar Davis can ask them, bring back the love. That game played up at Arnett Garden. When I used to play for Rail in 1966. Patrick Blair was a captain, Frank Brown, Hector Pinnock, all of us. And I see people I knew from Salt Lane, Tivoli never built up yet, Dongle, and them walk up Calliswood Drive and see them, never see them cousin so much years and cry, big men. I can tell you I see that. What a game, and it was good. Tivoli can play upon it, God, and everything is good. So when I talk, that's what I mean.
Yes, but you are doing what you say, and the bottom line is that we are not what we say we are. We are what we do. And you're somebody who say it and do it, and this is what we actually love about the example that you're setting for so many of us. Thank you so much, Busy. Thank you so much. You must call it busy now, right?
Yeah, I've changed my name now. Because you're busy. Everybody's busy from the COVID. I changed mine to very, very busy. But sister, do me a favor. Just make a note of this for me, please.
Yes.
And you can play it on your own.
Yes.
There's song named Walk with Love by Dobie Gray.
You know, so you're not easy, you know. You're
No, I'm going to text you. If I could text it.
No, man,
but
it's all right. No, I'm just saying you turned Peter Tosh for me and just select the music this morning.
You would know close I was with Peter Touch. You would know when Peter Touch picked me up one day at Sonic Sounds and said, come busy, we'll go to Constant Spring Jail. Go look for a brethren who was in there. One day I'll tell you that story. I don't want to tell you now. I will tell you the story. It's serious. But on the song that I'm asking you to listen to, there's write it, make a note or you can Google it. Jimmy Holiday. Mm-hmm. He has an album named The Turning Point. Mm-hmm. And another album it have We Forget About Love. Mm-hmm. And I have another song named Everybody Need Help Sometime.
Right, but this one you're telling me now is Walk with Love.
Walk with Dobie Gray. You can walk here, man. Yeah.
Dobie Gray, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a reach. I think it's a reach.
So much, my brother, busy. Thank you. We know Dobie Gray. At least we know this one. My sister Arlene, she says, Kabu, I know that song. Not this one, the one from Johnny Nash. She says, I know that song. Didn't know it was Johnny Nash. Wow. Big up to the brother. Yes, adults drop the ball, need to pick it up back. Agree with you so much. Thank you, my sister. Policy. Need to read that one. So we're going to have a lot of discussion leading up to the elections about FinSAC, because all of this, you know, is so as to put Mark Golding, to put the FinSAC debacle on Mark Golding's lap. You know, say that Aguando. That's basically it. It is what it is. So we kind of know how the thing work. We know how the thing run. And it is what it is. Let me do this and come back. I'd surprise you and just call you that successfully defended his dissertation and now is a PhD. Darian Henry, congratulations, my brother. Great work. Remember when you started. And here you go. That's tomorrow, October 21, at the Institute of Jamaica in Kingston. So at 8:35, I'm going to be opening the phone lines. And the first 14 calls will get a pair of tickets to go see Messiah, the movie. Just kind of sharing what I know and listening to what you know and putting those two together and having some conversations about the need for media literacy. It is important, especially now, because there's just so much information, so much data that we're not converting our information yet, or much less to take it into knowledge and then to the higher knowing. There's so many steps to the knowing. And a lot of the knowing comes from what you already feel inside, from your DNA, from your own experiences. A lot of the knowing comes from there. So basically, a good part of what we're consuming, we're already, the good thing about it is that we can use that which we're consuming, we can internalize it and just kind of compare it with what we already know. And then what we don't want, it's like a fish and bone situation. We eat the flesh and we throw the bone. But that's up to us, really. But one of the ways to do this, and especially I'm going to say something about the Jamaican media. Lots and lots happening now because we're in an election campaign era. The period that we're in now is election campaigning. Whether or not they want to call it, so the election campaign is in full swing. It has been for a while now. Now they've just ratcheted it up, right? So all the FinSAC reports that's coming out, the archives and all of that, that is part of the election nearing, the election campaigning. That aside, how are we to consume media? What it is that we need to know? One of the things that's very important for us to know, before you make a decision on anything that is controversial, look and see who owned the media, who owned the radio station, who owned the paper, who owned the space, who put it on the social media, and then to look at who these people are. So who owned the Observer? Go and check that out. Go look at the board of the Observer. Who's the chairman? Who owned the Gleaner? Go and check that out. Who's on the board? Who's the chairman? And go down that way. The thing you want to know, though, more than anything else, who are the chairman? For any newspaper you want to know, any media, who are the chairman? I'm going to come back to it and tell you why that is important. And then also you want to look at the makeup of the board. Who are the board members? where them operate, who are they, and so on. Because a lot in the newspapers right now about the emancipation and so on, amalgamation. Look and see how the papers are covering it. We're just a minute away from the cash pot draw, so I'll come back to that. But what we can do for today, before you go any further, look up who owned the Observer and who owned the Gleaner. My sister Yvonne Brown is standing by, attorney at law she's attending the Pan-African Annual Lawyers Conference. I'm not quite sure why I didn't get her there. All right, so she is in. All right, let me do this. I know Yvonne is online, and not quite sure what's happening, but let me do this and get her up online. All right. Are you hearing me, Yvonne? No. All right. I know she's online, right? So she's on. All right. So let me do this and get it properly up. All right. Okay. She's loud and clear, but you're not hearing her, and she's no longer hearing me. That's the situation. Let's see if we can do this again. We might have to call her back. All right. Let me see if this is any better. Yvonne, hearing me?
I'm hearing you loud and clear.
All right. And I do think that now I can see on the board that our listeners should be hearing you loud and clear too. Thank you so much for your patience, my sister.
Not a problem.
All right. This is so much better, but you know what? Let me just say, I know it's better for the listeners, not so good for me. So I'm going to take it from the top again, though, for our listeners, because first thing you did was just to give us a background to what the Pan-African Lawyers Conference was, and then to give us an idea of the different areas that the conference is focusing on, and then we come back to look at each area individually in terms of your takeaways so far.
Sure. Yeah, so the conference happening here in Ethiopia historically was as a result of Pan-African lawyers in around 2002 setting up a union of lawyers throughout the continent and the diaspora. So there tends to be three strands. The first is business law, which is looking at specific practice areas, family crime, etc. And then the second area is legal practice. So how to ensure that you are the best lawyer that you can be and that you run a good firm, etc. And then the third area is public interest and development law. And so I was referring to one of the areas relating to stopping the bleeding. And the title of the seminar was The Debt and Extractivism Conundrum in Africa, Enhancing Transparency and Good Governance of Africa's Natural Resources. Mm-hmm. And that was a really interesting seminar, because as we know, for centuries, the Europeans have been bleeding Africa, not only of its people, but its resources. And so there are a number of organizations. One is called Stop the Bleeding Campaign. And there's an organization called the African Forum and Network on Debt and Development. Mm-hmm. So it may be that some of your listeners may wish to get involved in that. Mm-hmm. But it's about ensuring that the illicit flows of resources comes to an end. There was one particular lawyer who was formerly a judge magistrate from Nigeria, who was speaking and explaining that something like half of the crude oil that goes out of Nigeria is via illicit means. So the country does not benefit. It's only individuals that benefit. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that she explained to me subsequently was that the fighting, the challenges that are going on in Boko Haram or in that northern region, mm-hmm. a lot of that is to do with little mini fiefdoms of people who are controlling the oil. And she explained that there are other nationals I'm just repeating what she said to me. I have no evidence of this, that other nationals, some whom she suggested maybe from China, who are playing one fiefdom leader off against another. So there are a lot of things happening on the continent in relation to resources that need to be looked at, so that those who live on the continent, the Africans themselves, can benefit from the resources.
And I can just imagine that with the influx of China, Africa partnerships ongoing now, that this must be almost like a landmine in a way, especially for legal ramifications, because there's so many things that are being signed off on that it makes you wonder. And we see a similar thing happening here on the island in Jamaica. It's no surprise to me then that the question might arise as to whether or not you have this playing off, of one, ethnic group against another. Going on there. I can certainly see how that is happening. There's a report, Yvonne, in one of the newspapers coming out of Ethiopia that speaks to the ongoing conference that's happening right now, and looking at also talking about the champion for the African unity. And I'm not sure if you have been into any of those discussions where that conversation is happening, and the extent to which it is happening. Is it really looking at the legal fraternity by itself, or is it a general conversation around ongoing African unity?
It's interesting that you say that. I think most well-thinking Pan-Africanists are striving for unity. That's what we are striving for. And I think throughout the continent. However, there is still in parts of the continent a push for various forms of colonialism. One of the areas that your listeners may not be familiar with is a country called Western Sahara. And I understand that I think Morocco is seeking to lay a claim on Western Sahara. So there are those things going on still that many people don't know about and are unaware of. So I think when you've had hundreds and hundreds of years of divide and rule, it takes a lot of courage to get African unity throughout the continent. But I think there is work being done. I also wanted to just mention some issues to do with reparation, because there was another seminar on reparations. And as you know, the Caribbean have been looking at this for many years and are fairly well advanced in their claims. The African continent is also looking at this. Their claim for reparations will naturally be different. We who are from the Caribbean, we lost our heritage, we lost our culture, we were worked to death. So, our claim for reparations is going to be different from those on the continent where, the continent was deprived of millions of people and then underwent imperialism. So I think there are tensions there. I won't go into it in more detail, but there are tensions there, and I know that those in the reparation movement will share information, but that was also something that I became aware of.
And it's interesting that is being discussed there. I think it's the right place for it to be discussed too, with the Pan-African Lawyers Union and at a conference like this, because obviously, we are aware of a lot of these tensions. I know that there is a push right now because the British monarch is in Australia, and then he's going to be moving on to Samoa, where the Commonwealth Conference will get underway. But that the CARICOM has already indicated that they will be bringing up the question of reparations there, but there are other questions on the table as to whether or not CARICOM should have this collaboration with Africa in the reparations debate. For myself, and I'm not quite sure where you stand on this, Yvonne, but I don't think so. I think these things should be separate for many, many reasons, and that might speak to some of the tensions that you're pointing to there. But your own thoughts on it. Do you have any thoughts on that yourself in terms of whether or not this should be a process that CARICOM should be looking at?
I certainly think CARICOM and the African Union at that high level should be looking at it. Mm-hmm. However, the suffering and the loss and the magnitude of it is great. Yeah. And I think there are different angles. The continent is where it is, and those of us that went through the Martha. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'd like to hear the arguments. I mean, I'm sure there are areas where there can be and should be collaboration, mm-hmm. but the suffering and the disadvantage
mm-hmm.
Is more nuanced, I suppose, mm-hmm. and I don't think I'm not in a position to make the case either way. Yeah. But I think those that are studied in the area, no doubt, are able to.
I'm happy that it is being raised there, though, in the Pan-African Lawyers Union Conference. I'm going to take a quick break and come back, Yvonne, because I know another thing I note coming out of Ethiopia, just looking at the reports coming, is the question of Ethiopia's justice system. So I'm not quite sure if you were in any of those and if that's being discussed and to what extent. So let me take a break and come back to that. Is standing by. She's speaking from the 14th annual conference of the Pan-African Lawyers Union. It's the 14th, right, Yvonne? Pan-African Lawyers Union, which is currently taking place at the... Are you at the Africa Union headquarters in Addis Ababa?
No, however, our opening ceremony did take place at the African Union.
Well, what was that like?
It was amazing, actually, being in the hall where, you know, our leaders from around, from the top to the bottom of Africa, hold their meetings. So it was a wonderful occasion, and the Ethiopian African lawyers welcomed us amazingly. So it was a wonderful occasion.
Mm-hmm. And then to some of the discussions, Ethiopia's justice system and recent reforms we're understanding are taking place in the Ethiopia's justice system. And I'm not quite sure how much you'd have had that conversation, but the little that you would have heard so far and what you know, help us to understand what's happening there, please.
Okay, well, I have no knowledge of the current state of the Ethiopian justice system. However, there was a comment that was made to me by an Ethiopian lawyer who hails from Shashamane. So she was born in that area, mm-hmm. and she used to practice criminal law. I think she still does. I think most of the lawyers are generalists, like they often are still in Jamaica. Mm-hmm. And what she said to me was that she was choosing not to practice in criminal law because you would fight and to get bail for your client, and then they would not get the bail. So she mentioned to me that it was really soul destroying and a waste of time. But as to that being a reflection, whether it was true or not, I do not know. Mm-hmm. All I'm doing is repeating what a particular lawyer said to me. So I'm sorry, but I can't offer any view on the Ethiopian justice system.
Yeah, in terms of your takeaway so far over the few days, because you're close to wrapping up now, my understanding.
Yes.
Right. What would be your main takeaways from the conference?
Well, in fact, the conference has ended. It ended on Friday. So it was a 3-day conference. So the first day was, the Wednesday was the opening, where we went to the African Union, and then we had 2 days of work on Thursday and Friday. So the conference ended on Friday. So Saturday, there were people doing tours and various things and museums. I chose to go to Lalibela.
And we want to talk about that, you know, from the ground down, as I keep saying to you, Yvonne. What was that trip like for you? How many days did it take from Addis to Lalibela? And walk us through the entire experience.
Okay, so it's about 250 miles from Addis to Lalibela, which is in the northern part of the country. So it's too dangerous to go by road. So I flew to Lalibela and just overnighted there. So yesterday I visited, I think it was 7 of the churches built from the ground down, and today I saw 4 more.
Wow.
To me, it was like going to Egypt and seeing the pyramids. It was an amazing experience, and to see the technology, the engineering, the vision, it was just absolutely amazing. And I would encourage those of us from the diaspora and from Africa to go and visit. What I learned was that it's not just in Lalibela where you have churches built, hewn from the rock. They have a number in Tigray, although I haven't looked into it yet. But certainly the 11 churches in Lalibela were declared in 1978 to be a World Heritage Site. And in fact, today, one of the King Lalibela's palace became a church, and I saw that today. So it was just wonderful entering what was his palace. You know, you have to remember that these buildings have been there for hundreds of years. So, but some of them inside, you can see paintings, and it was just wonderful. It was a little bit disappointing because there was some depictions of what is commonly referred to as a white Jesus, which didn't bear any relation to what was actually painted in the buildings themselves. So that was a little bit disappointing. But other than that, it was just magnificent, and it was a great experience.
And do you just going through Lalibela in particular and looking at these churches, to what extent do you get the feel of the anciency and the ancient, that this you're in an ancient kingdom, regardless of what's left of it?
Yes, I mean, you do get that. When you see the churches hewn out of the rock, out of the rock.
Out of the rock, from the ground down. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's basically what it is. So short of showing the pictures, and you sent me some really beautiful pictures. One thing I noticed, and I'm not quite sure if it is something that you are seeing on the ground, but obviously Addis is growing like crazy. I mean, the pics you sent me from Addis is like, wow, I am shocked to see the extent to which Addis is developing, and there seems to be less attention paid to Lalibela in comparison. I'm not quite sure if I'm seeing right from your pics, but this is the impression I'm getting.
Well, Addis, when you're in Addis Ababa, and I'm this conference is linked at the Skylight Hotel. You might think you're in London or New York or any other major city, Paris. The development is just amazing and magnificent. I haven't ventured too far, but just to see the buildings. So people ought not to have this mythical view of Africa. This is a booming, bustling, major city. Lalibela is a town. I think the number I saw that there were about 30,000 residents. It is country, and there are the only kind of largish buildings were those that were being built for as hotels. In the majority, from what I could see, there were some municipal buildings, but I think most residents were living in relatively small homes, and a lot of people are moving away from the circular homes to square homes. There was quite a lot of I think to me it looks like these new houses, square houses, were, you know, people used to talk about Wackle and Darb, you know.
Right, because so I can relate to that, having seen the round houses there when I went.
Yes.
So there is this kind of move to another kind of architecture.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you been to the market yet, or you don't have any intention to go shop?
In fact, I went to the market in Lalibela. I went to the market in Lalibela and purchased a beautiful Ethiopian dress. And so that was wonderful, and a few other artifacts. So that was an experience also.
Wow. And are you there? You're there until when?
Well, either tomorrow or the day after.
Wow.
I'm still working on it.
Yeah. Well, look, continue to enjoy it. And I love the pics. Send me some more pics if you can. And any final point you want to make regarding your Ethiopia trip, and how can we tag on to some of those trips that you're making around the world?
Yes. I mean, you don't need to be a lawyer to go to the Pan-African Lawyers Union conference. There were non-lawyers there, and many of the speakers, particularly, for example, in this Stop the Bleeding, were other professionals, jurists, accountants, financiers. So you don't need to be a lawyer to be part of PALU or the conference. But I would say I was very impressed with Ethiopian Airlines. You know, from my view, they are the Africa's airline. Very impressed. And so for those who are seeking to travel around the continent, you couldn't do worse than starting with Ethiopian Airlines. They pride themselves on their efficiency, and they're making great strides forward.
Brilliant. And finally, Yvonne, you traveled from Jamaica to Ethiopia by way of London, right?
Correct.
So was it an easy journey, or how simple was it?
I mean, I certainly thought of going from Jamaica via New York or America. I don't particularly like going through that means, but it was, I think, whichever way you go, it's going to be long. You're going to have 2 long flights. There's no direct flight from the Caribbean to Africa yet. It's long overdue. And so we're having to go through Europe, or, well, generally speaking, it's through Europe to get there, or America. So you can either go to, in fact, Ethiopian Airlines have a direct flight from Atlanta to Addis Ababa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, my sister. Thank you so much. This is really great. You brought Ethiopia right into our homes this morning. Thank you so much for that. And safe journeys back, safe travels back. We'll see you when you come in.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right. Yvonne Brown there, attorney at law, Pan-African attorney at law, and attending the 14th annual conference of the Pan-African Lawyers Union, and that took place at the Africa Union. Well, at least the opening ceremony took place at the Africa Union headquarters in Addis Ababa, and it ran from October 16. It wrapped up on Friday. And you heard from Yvonne, representatives there from across the continent of Africa. And she herself an attorney at law representing Jamaica and the UK, and did it obviously as only she can in an excellent, excellent fashion. All right, we take a quick break. We'll be right back. The thing that was always tied to those monies was our access to beaches. Here in Jamaica, a celebration, when hotels are celebrating, it's a massive celebration, and they always, especially the big conglomerates, you always see all the politicians out, including the Prime Minister, wherever in the world he is, he'll make it back in time for those celebrations. And they're always massive celebrations, and they happen on the beach, in the hotel, on the beach, etc. And to which they recognize or are reminded when they go to those celebrations that the beach is not accessible to the people. But here we are. We're also seeing a report, and let me just wrap that to say that we have to send a very clear message to the Prime Minister, to the Minister with responsibility for economic growth and job creation, to the Minister of Culture, to the Minister of Tourism, to the Minister of Industry and Commerce, to the Minister of Education, that the plan that the PSOJ has submitted to them, it cannot work, will not work, not on our watch. And that they also have a responsibility to ensure that they definitively and loudly say where they stand on this, but to push back at this and to reject this outright, so that we are aware, so that we know that the rejection has taken place. As it is now, we have no indication from any of these ministries or individuals that head these ministries that this rejection, this proposal from the private sector organization of Jamaica has been rejected. We have none of that. It's happening again. The private sector will get its way if the people do not stand up against it, because the government is owned by the private sector. The ministers are owned by the private sector. The media that's reporting on this, the media in Jamaica for the most part is privately owned. It's privately owned, means that it belongs to the media is part of the private sector organization of Jamaica. So this is something that we have to understand when we're listening to the reports coming from the media, listening to the conversations coming from the media, but also from the press, when we're getting what we're getting from the Jamaica Observer, what we're getting from the Jamaica Gleaner. We have to look at these through the lens of critical thinking, deep thinking. We're talking about media literacy here, understanding that the media is part of the private sector. The media are private entities functioning within the private sector. The private sector organization has said to us that majority of its members are in agreement with this suggestion, which means that reporters and young journalists and young talk show hosts and so on, and older ones and so on, this is how they are paid by these media. And so that they have to, for the most part, carry the line of the media. It's hard for them to go outside of that. So the reporters will speak in favor, and we're seeing this. I watched a very interesting thing, one morning on one television station. I couldn't believe my eyes, because someone from the private sector was being interviewed about this very same thing. And during the interview, the hosts agreed, and not just agreed, but went out of their way to put words in the mouth of the private sector member in terms of showing them how this should be done and this can be done. But once the private sector member left, then the host embarked on a conversation that suggested that they were totally against it. This is also on air. All of this was live. And this is the dilemma that critical thinkers and deep thinkers face when you work for an organization, when you're an employee within the organization, and the organization is carrying a certain line or taking a certain stance. You face a dilemma. So in understanding media, we have to go beyond the employees and to look at the board and to look at the chair in particular, and more than anything else to look at the ownership. Neither the ownership nor the chair nor the board, they do not normally hide their political leanings. So there's an editorial, for example, in the Jamaica Observer a few days ago, which went to bat for this suggestion. They were totally 100% in agreement with the suggestion from the private sector organization. What the editorial failed to point out was that we too are part of this. We're membership of the private sector organization in Jamaica. We operate within this, and there are some of our board members who operate here. This is our suggestion. This is what the editorial failed to point out. And so you're reading that and you're thinking, wow. And there's another thing for media literacy too. When you see an editorial, that big part that says editorial, not the letters, no, that part just says see editorial, that is usually the view of the owner, the chair, the board. The editorial does not go outside of the thinking of the chair, the board, the owner. So this is something to bear in mind. So when you read the editorial and it looks all, wow, it's objective and so on. No. There's no objectivity there. This is a view of the owner of the paper. This is how we understand media and press, and the press when we're reading. There's a story in the Observer. Let me give you the date. October 18. And the headline reads, Proven, P-R-O-V-E-N, Proven, all in capital letters. Proven Properties unveils latest development at Bahari Runaway Bay. And it goes on to say, last Sunday, Proven Properties hosted an exclusive open house event at Bahari in their latest luxury development located in the scenic coastal town of Runaway Bay in St. Anne. And then it goes on to talk about the mix of villas and townhouses and condos and so on. And it tells you that these are beachfront properties, resort-style clubhouse, complete with pool, lounge-style, state-of-the-art gym, and so on. Private plunge pool, and a private white sand beach. Private white sand beach. Now, so then you have to go find out what is proven. Yeah.